The colors of fall are my favorite, and I love using them in my card making, but I'm not a big fan of the cost of most designer papers. In this video, I am sharing an inexpensive alternative to those pricey designer papers and cardstocks. Hello and welcome to Karen's Creative Cards on YouTube. I am Karen Heshik, and in this video, I will show you how easy it is to make gorgeous autumn colored cards like these. I have two very similar cards with the eclipse technique where I've raised the YOU letters on fun foam. This one of course has kind of a yellow tinge to it, and this one has more of white, and the reason for that is I am using napkins, autumn colored napkins. I bought a whole package of these napkins at the dollar store for obviously $1, right? I think there would maybe be 20 in a pack, and if you open it up, you have this full-sized piece here, and you could actually get 4 cards out of here. So 4 cards, 20 in a pack, maybe 80 cards for $1 with this gorgeous paper, where I'm going to show you how to attach to cardstock in a very easy way. So here are the rest of the cards that I made with napkins and many favorite dies. All the details on each of these will be on my blog, and the links to those will be in the description box. So I made this card with this napkin, and again you could get 4 of them out of this one napkin. I decided to try, I had seen a card made with, or no, I just saw the quilt, a Shenandoah quilt pattern. And I figured out all the measurements, so if you stop the video right now and take a, write it down, you can. I'm also going to show it on my blog. But I figured out the measurements to do this Shenandoah quilt pattern on the front out of that pretty paper that I made with that napkin. So that is another card that I made. This is a pretty napkin I found, and it actually opens up, and you would actually get 6 cards out of this one because you would be using the longer pieces there and cutting them apart. And I made this card here. Again, I'm using many of my favorite dies, and I like that where you can raise it out of there kind of for the eclipse technique. This one has Happy Thanksgiving, and on the inside I used that top part on the napkin that said Give Thanks on that pretty burlap background. Again, just using a napkin. This is another pretty card that I made, thinking of you, with birds, and another one of those tall napkins that you could get many cards out of. And in this case I put it over a yellow background. And I'm going to show you the difference between yellow or white, but it really makes it brighter and prettier. This is a card that I made again with the eclipse technique, hello, and some leaves popping up right out of that background. This is the napkins that I used for that. Now sometimes when I go into like a gift shop, I'm not really usually buying gifts, but I will look at their pretty napkins, and this one I just thought was so pretty. And when it is this cocktail size, what I'll usually do is open it up and cut it in half and get your card, your A2 size card, right out of the middle here, or you could get a longer legal size one if you wanted. So on these smaller ones you still get 2 cards. So this pretty package was $5.99 for 20, so you could get 40 cards for $6, and cost of designer cardstock or paper is way more than that. So even if they are designer napkins like this is, it's still a great deal. This is my favorite of the napkins that I've used, and I'm not even sure where we found these. A friend might have shared them, but in this case it is one that opens up and you can pick your favorite part, and you could get several cards out of there, but I'm going to show you how I did it to make a larger card. But that's just beautiful, and even the white parts are pretty. I have a mini Minc, and that's all that fits in my area. But if you have a full-size Minc, you could actually put the whole napkin through. Any one of these napkins, you could put the whole napkin through, and then you wouldn't waste any of that beautiful paper. And if you don't have a Minc, you can attach napkins to cardstock with an iron. And look for videos on YouTube with that technique. I'm going to show you how easy it is with a Minc, and I of course would never go back to the ironing technique, but if you don't have one and don't want to get one, you can do that. This is again my favorite napkin of the bunch that I have, and this turned into my favorite card, which is the one I'm going to share with you. Again, I did the eclipse technique with dies. These dies are from Tonic Studios. They're called Will's Hand, because that's his writing and it's blessed. And then this is a sentiment strip from Tailored Expressions, where we stamp and then die cut, and then I also did a little bit of brushed on some yellow. So that is similar to the card that we're going to create together in this video. So again, this is my favorite napkin of the bunch that I have. And the first thing that you want to do is to, I think they call it skinning it, but you want to take the top layer off, and sometimes they're 2-ply and sometimes they're 3-ply. So if you are pulling your top layer off and there's still a lot of white back here and it's not see-through, you're going to want to pull another layer off. So in this case it was just a 2-ply, and you can basically see through it, and that's what you want. So when you're working with your napkins, if there's a lot of white back there yet, you want to pull another layer off. So I always start with a piece of cardstock that's larger than the piece that I want to use on my card, and that way I can trim it down perfectly to the size that I want. And sometimes I'll use whatever's left on the inside, you know, depending. I did want to show you that you could choose to have either, in this, you want brightly colored, but like this is what it will look like to have a yellow background, and this is what it would look like to have a white background. So I often use white, but for this one and many of the other ones, I decided I liked the look on the yellow. It just made it brighter. So once you know where you want that background, that piece to be, you can trim off the excess. And what I was liking was using some of the pumpkin and then a lot of those flowers. So I am going to trim this down fairly close to the edge of that piece of cardstock back there. We'll get it a little closer, but just for now we're just trimming it down to get it a little bit closer. And then you're going to take saran wrap or plastic wrap. I just have inexpensive plastic wrap from Kroger, or saran wrap, whatever you might have on hand. And that is what's going to melt and hold it to the piece of cardstock. And then you want it to lay flat on your cardstock, making sure that all of the cardstock is covered with that plastic wrap or saran wrap. And then we're going to place the napkin piece on top and do a little more trimming to get just a little bit closer. You don't want a lot of that plastic wrap or saran wrap to stick outside the piece that you're putting it, the carrier, I guess is what it's called in a Minc. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit closer. And then once we get it in the carrier, we might do a little more trimming. Now the size of the carriers for the mini Minc is 6 by 6. So that's the maximum size that I can do for mine. And again, if you have the, yeah, we don't need to. If you have the larger one, you can do a larger napkin, which is kind of nice. Then all you do is you have your Minc set to 5, which is higher than normal. Normally we're doing our foiling at 3, but I have found that for the napkins we want it at 5. And you simply put it through, and the saran wrap or cling wrap, whatever it is you're using, will melt, and that will hold the napkin in place. And once in a while, after it's gone through once, if you see that there's some edges that aren't completely done, you might want to put it through a second time. But again, it's way easier than ironing. And although, again, it can be done with an iron, but this is so much easier. So now you simply take it out, and your napkin is attached to your piece of cardstock. It is that easy. And then, of course, like I said, I always make it bigger than what I want. So on the card that I'm going to make, I would trim this to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and I'll show you that. This is that layered die from Tonic, which I love layered dies, especially for doing eclipse type cards. And so this was then trimmed to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and I'm putting it on a green card base that's 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. And then I have die cut the blessed background die right out of there. And as you can see, there's a background and then there's the top piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach this blessed on the top, and then I have some fun foam that has adhesive backing on it, and that's also that's going to be glued together, which will raise it out of the background for what is called the eclipse technique, which is still one of my favorite things to do. The background goes from the background into the word, and then and I just think it's a really neat look. So I'm going to use some of my favorite glue, and of course links to all the products are in the description box. And this piece of napkin with the beautiful fall colors will be attached to that adhesive backed fun foam. Some people cut, you know, 4 or 6 layers out of a die for the background, but I find this so much easier to do when I'm doing the eclipse technique. First we better attach this to the card base, right? I just think those fall colors with the pumpkin and the flowers are just gorgeous on that. And now we're going to remove the adhesive. Oops, sticky. And so that is popped up out of the background. And now we're going to put the blessed, which I like that word for Thanksgiving and fall cards. I am blessed to have good friends and family, as most of us are. And that's what I will use this card for. And then I am loving the sentiment strips from Tailored Expressions, where you can stamp a whole bunch of them, and then I like to brush on a little color to match the card, and this one is from her Friends sentiment set. Blessed, friends like you make life better. So true, right? So that is how easy it is and inexpensive to make a beautiful fall or Thanksgiving card using napkins. This time of year there are inexpensive fall and Christmas napkins in many stores, including dollar stores. So for your fall and holiday cards, I hope you give this easy technique a try. Thanks for watching, sharing, and subscribing, and thanks too for helping me share the joy of creativity.